6:17 p.m. You are standing in your living room folding laundry off the arm of the couch. The evening news plays low from the television in the corner. Your kids argue about something upstairs. The smell of dinner still hangs in the warm air. The world outside your window is gold and perfectly ordinary, soaked in the particular light of a Tuesday evening in late autumn. Traffic moves down the street. Neighbors walk dogs along the sidewalk. Someone 2 houses down is mowing their lawn for the last time this season. Everything is exactly as it should be, and you are not thinking about anything important. You are thinking about what you will watch tonight and whether you remembered to return your mother's call. Then the window turns white. Not the white of passing headlights. Not the white of lightning, which flickers and vanishes before your brain can register it. This white is sustained. This white is absolute. It fills every pane of glass in your house simultaneously, bleaching shadows off the walls, overwhelming every artificial light in the room as if each bulb were a candle held up against the full open sun. The television washes out completely. The room becomes brighter than surgery, brighter than noon on open water, brighter than any light your eyes have ever processed in your entire life. Your own shadow appears behind you on the wall with an edge so sharp it looks cut with a blade. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3, the white holds. And somewhere deep in the part of your brain that processes threat before language can catch up, something ancient and absolutely certain forms a single word. Flash. Your brain does not reach for the word nuclear. It does not reach for detonation or warhead or yield or megaton. It reaches for flash. And inside that single word lives the complete and total understanding of what is about to happen to your house, your neighborhood, and every assumption you have ever made about tomorrow. You have been informed your entire life about this moment. You watched the documentaries in school. You scrolled past the news alerts about escalating tensions last week and dismissed them because the alerts always say that and nothing ever actually happens. You sat through emergency broadcast tests on the radio and felt nothing because nothing was ever actually happening. Now something is actually happening. The flash bleeds from white into deep climbing orange that pulses on the horizon, like the slow heartbeat of something enormous and already dying. The mushroom cloud builds in slow motion, rising into the sky with a terrible patience, as if it has all the time in the world. It does not care about your laundry on the couch. It does not care about the argument happening upstairs. It does not care that tonight was supposed to be ordinary. You are still alive in this moment. But alive is only the beginning, and the next 15 minutes will determine whether it stays that way. The flash means a nuclear detonation just occurred within your visible horizon. That is the only explanation your brain can accept for what your eyes just processed. No industrial fire, no chemical explosion, no electrical phenomenon creates sustained light at that intensity across that arc of sky. The silence confirms the rest. No sound has reached you yet. No shockwave has rattled the windows. No shockwave has rattled the windows. The detonation is distant enough that the initial thermal pulse did not ignite your sighting, which means you are measuring this distance in miles, not city blocks. The flash-to-bang calculation works with brutal arithmetic here. Every 5 seconds between the light and the first sound represents 1 mile of distance from ground zero. You saw the flash. You heard nothing. Count. Every second of silence is a second of distance keeping you alive. But that same distance is also why you do not yet understand the full nature of what is coming toward you. Because what is coming is not a second fireball. What is coming is the overpressure wave, the atmospheric shock wave generated by a detonation measuring in kilotons or megatons, a wall of compressed air moving at 760 miles per hour that does not scatter or weaken the way sound weakens, carrying enough destructive force at significant distances to shatter every window in your house and send those glass fragments inward at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour. You survived the fireball because of distance. Distance will not save you from what that fireball created. Somewhere right now, inside a command facility that has been tracking an anomalous radar return for the last 12 minutes, people in uniform are speaking in controlled voices about yield estimates and confirmed impact coordinates and projected casualty radii. Early warning satellites detected the infrared plume of a launch over the Arctic corridor 90 seconds before you ever saw the flash. The public received no alert. There was no siren, no emergency notification on your phone, no interruption of the evening news. Not because the warning system failed, but because a hypersonic re-entry vehicle traveling at Mach 20 through the upper atmosphere compresses the available decision window to a span too short to mean anything for civilian action. The government knew something was coming. The diplomatic channels had been collapsing for weeks. You read a headline about it, clicked away after the first paragraph, and forgot it by dinner. DEFCON 1 was authorized in the last 40 minutes. Article 5 of the NATO Charter is already being invoked through encrypted military channels in 3 capitals. The geopolitical architecture that prevented nuclear weapons from being used for 70 years failed this afternoon, and the President is being briefed on confirmed detonations and retaliation. Authorization inside a hardened facility you have never heard of. None of that is information you can access. None of that changes what the next 14 minutes require from you. You are still standing in your living room. It has been roughly 45 seconds since the flash. The television is dark. The lamp in the corner is out. The power died the moment the electromagnetic pulse from the detonation swept across the regional grid at the speed of light, collapsing every transformer and unshielded circuit board across the coverage area in a single cascading event. Your phone is inert plastic in your pocket. The internet is gone. Every digital communication system within the grid radius is down. The only signal that will reach a working receiver near you is shortwave radio, and you do not own one. You are informationally blind, navigating the most dangerous situation of your life on nothing but whatever you already know. Standing here in your powerless living room while the orange glow outside pulses against a neighborhood that does not yet understand what just happened to it. The question is whether you know enough. The question is whether you move now or whether you wait for information that is not coming. 13 minutes remaining. Your brain is actively working against you, and this is not a metaphor. The neurological response to sudden catastrophic threat floods your bloodstream with cortisol and initiates a processing loop that physically degrades motor function. Fine motor control deteriorates. Peripheral vision narrows. The working memory that holds and sequences immediate information compresses under hormonal pressure. Disaster researchers call this behavioral inaction, the freeze state that captures the majority of survivors in the first critical moments of a sudden catastrophe. Your body is waiting for confirmation before committing to movement. Your body wants more data before it will unlock your feet from the floor. Your body does not understand that confirmation is arriving in 30 minutes at 760 miles per hour. And by the time it gets here, confirmation will be the last thing you need. You have to override the freeze manually, consciously, by making the deliberate choice to move before your nervous system is ready to let you. Move your feet. Leave the room. That is the entire priority. Nothing else is the priority right now. You move. Broken glass from a knocked picture frame bites into your bare heel. You do not stop. Every parental instinct screams at you to climb the stairs toward your children first. But the basement is below you, and physics does not negotiate with parental instinct. The overpressure wave traveling toward your house will work through the upper floors with enough force to throw bodies against walls at trauma-causing velocities. Every floor between you and the earth is another floor the wave must push through. Every foot of packed soil and concrete above your head is another foot of mass-absorbing overpressure before it reaches your body. A basement does not merely feel safer. A basement provides a measurable tenfold reduction in blast effect compared to the unprotected ground floor. You scream your children's names. Your voice comes out louder than you have ever heard it from your own throat, a voice stripped of everything except the demand to move. You hear feet hit the floor upstairs. That is good. That is movement. Keep going. 10 minutes remaining. You throw open every interior door as you pass it. This feels profoundly wrong. Every instinct says seal yourself in, close the doors, create barriers between you and the outside. But a closed interior door during a pressure wave event does not simply open under the force. It explodes off its hinges and becomes a 50-pound wooden projectile traveling through your hallway. Open doors allow pressure to equalize across interior spaces. Open doors do not become weapons. You leave every one open and drag the heavy comforter from the hall closet behind you with one hand. Your children appear at the top of the stairs, their faces pale in the orange-lit dark, confusion and the beginning of fear written across them. You do not explain. You point down. You say basement and you say now, and the tone of your voice carries every word that the words themselves cannot hold. 8 minutes remaining. You are all in the basement. Your family presses together against the interior wall, farthest from the single small ground-level window, the only gap between this room and the outside air. You pull the comforter over all of you and hold it down. It is not radiation shielding. It is not structural reinforcement. But when the ceiling fractures above you, drywall will fall. Insulation will shred. Concrete dust will fill the air with suspended particles your lungs should not be breathing freely. The comforter is filtration. The comforter is the difference between breathing that air raw and breathing it through fabric for the 4 most violent seconds of your life. Every single layer of material between your lungs and the outside world is meaningful right now. 5 minutes remaining. The house above you is making its ordinary sounds for what may be the last time. The furnace has gone quiet since the grid collapsed. The refrigerator motor is silent. What remains are the small structural sounds, the tick of cooling pipes, the gentle creak of joists settling, the accumulated noise of a building that does not know it is about to be tested by forces it was never engineered to meet. Your daughter has stopped asking questions. She is pressed against your side with her breath coming fast and shallow, her fingers locked around your arm. Your spouse's hand finds yours under the fabric and squeezes once, hard, and does not let go. No one speaks. There is nothing left to say that is more useful than silence and stillness and the simple act of staying low and staying covered. 2 minutes remaining. The orange glow pressing through the small basement window pulses with a slow, terrible rhythm. The mushroom cloud above the detonation site has reached full formation, climbing above 50,000 feet into the stratosphere, drawing superheated gases and vaporized debris and radioactive particles into the jet stream. That stream will carry fallout downwind across hundreds of miles over the next several hours. The particles are invisible. They carry no smell. They produce no sensation on skin contact until long after the cellular damage has already occurred. Fallout is not an immediate concern measured in seconds. Fallout is a crisis measured in hours, beginning 6 hours from detonation and building through the first 24. It is the next problem waiting behind the problem that is now 30 seconds away. Right now, your problem fits inside a single countdown. 0. The sound arrives a fraction ahead of the pressure itself, not an explosion. A low structural groan that originates at the edge of perception and builds, filling every frequency of hearing at once, growing instead of fading, rising from rumble into roar as it crosses the distance between wherever it started and the walls of your house. Then the house moves, not shakes, moves. The foundation shifts beneath you with a displacement your body has no frame of reference for. Walls produce sounds from wood and plaster and concrete that you have never heard from any building. Something fractures in the ceiling above. Something heavy impacts the floor of the room over your heads. And then the basement window detonates inward, a single sharp concussive crack as the glass transforms into a horizontal spray of fragments that scatters across the concrete floor 3 feet from where your family is huddled. If anyone had been standing at that window, they would be bleeding from dozens of wounds simultaneously. No one is standing there. The overpressure wave moves through the house in 4 seconds. Those 4 seconds hold more concentrated violence than any 4 seconds you have ever lived through. The joists overhead creak but do not give. Dust rains through the floorboards and thin gray curtains. A smell reaches you through the comforter, old wood, disturbed insulation, and something sharp and chemical underneath. Then silence returns. A different silence. The silence of a structure that has been permanently changed. You stay under the comforter. You do not move for 2 full minutes after the last sound stops. The dust settles slowly through the dark. When you finally lift the fabric and look at each other, you are all coated in pale gray powder. Your daughter's face carries 2 clean tracks where tears cut through the dust. Everyone is breathing. For this moment, in this basement, everyone is breathing. And breathing feels like everything. But you already understand that breathing is not enough because what just ended was only the first event. The flash was the trigger. The shock wave was the first consequence. What follows is measured in different units entirely. Fallout begins descending in hours. Water supply infrastructure serving your municipality runs on electric pumping stations that are now grid down. Food distribution networks built on continuous refrigeration and digital logistics have collapsed with the grid across the entire affected region. Hospitals outside the direct blast radius are already receiving casualties beyond any surge capacity they were designed to manage. The roads between your basement and any functioning emergency response may be impassable under debris from structures that did not survive the overpressure as intact as yours did. The information blackout is complete and absolute. No cellular network, no internet, no television broadcast, no GPS signal. The communication infrastructure that connected you to every other human being on Earth this morning is gone, killed by the EMP across the entire affected grid region. You do not know which city absorbed the detonation. You do not know the weapon yield. You do not know whether additional strikes have occurred, whether retaliation has been authorized, whether what you are inside is a single isolated event, or the opening exchange of a full nuclear engagement. You do not know where the fallout plume is drifting, or how dense it will be when it reaches your neighborhood. Information at this moment is not available. Information is a vacuum shaped exactly like everything you desperately need to know. Every decision you make from this basement outward must be constructed from what you already carried into this room before the flash. The next 72 hours are a siege you must manage with what you have. 14 hours minimum in this basement before radiation outside drops low enough for brief exposure. Every water source in the house must be found and counted by touch in the dark. The shattered window must be sealed with plastic, tape, wet cloth, anything that slows the outside air. These are not permanent fixes. They are bridges across the most dangerous hours, bought with whatever was here before 6:17 p.m. No rescue is coming tonight, maybe not for days. What exists is this room, these people, and whatever you prepared without knowing you were preparing. The modern world ran on invisible systems, power through unseen lines, water from distant pumps, food across fragile chains of fuel and trust. We called it normal. We assumed it would continue because it always had. But optimized systems do not bend under shock. They fail all at once. The orange glow outside will pulse for hours. Dust will keep settling. When you step out into the altered daylight, you will understand. Safety was never permanent. It was a condition maintained moment to moment. The flash did not end the world. It ended the illusion that it could not end.